of some divisional directors at the service headquarters and some regional directors across the country. The notice, signed by the Director General, Professor Samuel Kaba, and copied to all divisional directors, Ghana Health Service headquarters, and all regional directors of health service, noted that the reassignment is based on the exigencies of the service and the need to strategically position the service to deliver on its mandate and improve operational effectiveness and efficiency. The Ghana Education Service has directed staff affected by the recent revocation of appointments and recruitment to validate and reinstate their recruitment by March 14. In a letter dated March 5, 2025, and signed by Acting Director General Professor Ernest Kofi Davis, the GES noted that this move is part of an effort to clean up the database of all recruited staff on the GES payroll. The Ghana Education Service has directed for its 68th Independence Day celebrations, government scrapped the rotational venue idea to reduce costs, citing strain on the economy. Opinions are divided, especially as there is no clear direction to celebrate the 69th anniversary.
It gives a whole different perspective of what you're taught or what you're told. You see it, you feel it, you walk on the ground that they walked on, and it was very emotional.
You have to create events that feel like it's a true celebration. So how do we bring those two cultures together? You know, how do we bring people together and say, okay, here's an event that we can celebrate all at once? I don't think one exists, you know, in which diasporans are invited to join in the celebration. You know, I came from Jubilee House today. It was so wonderful. You know, I felt very patriotic, but I don't know that there's a formal invitation for diasporans to be involved.
There's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is Ghana Tonight. And as always, coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, let's go straight back to Konongo, Dumasi, in the Volta, that's in the Ashanti region, I beg your pardon, where we have some updates for you coming through right now, because the fire incident that we broke last night here on Ghana Tonight has been evolving thick and fast. And some persons who have also been affected are receiving treatment at the health facility in the area. We'll give you an update on that shortly. Plus the death toll as we speak. We understand some fire service officers have also been affected by this. We'll give you an update. But the Ashanti Regional Minister has directed the arrest of persons who are engaged in sale of mining explosives unlawfully. Now, this followed the loss of 3 lives. That's what we do know right now, 3 lives in a fire incident at a mining explosive shop at Konongo, Dumasi, in the Ashanti region. The tragic event has also left many injured, including some firefighters. Ashanti regional correspondent has been speaking to the minister there following this matter, and also some persons who were injured as a result of this particular fire outbreak, this explosion last night. Take a look.
Opposite store on Mountain Tongalam saying
I was standing across from the shop that sells dynamite when the fire started. I moved back to observe from a safe distance. Minutes later, a second explosion occurred. Before I knew it, I was thrown into the air and landed on the ground, covered in blood. My friends had to rush me to the hospital.
Well, my colleague Ibrahim Abubakar there, he's also been talking to some of the persons who lost their lives, and we understand over 30 buildings, residential facilities as well, were affected by this situation, this outbreak, the fire outbreak last night, and then also some shops, containers located in the area. He's been speaking to some of them, assessing the impact of this explosion last night. Take a look. We'll recall that shortly, and while we try to get through to Alex Kinate, who is a member of the Ghana National Fire Service Public Relations Department, to get an update on what's happening with respect to their officers who were affected by this. But let's look at exactly what we saw, the aftermath of this fire outbreak yesterday, and this is it. This, as of this afternoon, this is what's become of that fire scene. And these are some of the residential facilities. People, we understand, some of them were out of the house as of the time, and so they escaped the impact of this explosion. And these 3 persons who unfortunately have lost their lives, some of them were in some of the buildings that were affected as well by the explosion, and then also a number of shops. These are some containers and shops that serve the purpose of selling these mining equipments and items for the miners in that area. And we do know Konongo Dumasi is a mining area. A lot of these small-scale miners are there. And the extent of the impact of this explosion, from what we got to know from our correspondent, traveled really, really far. In some cases, was seen some 300 meters away and beyond. So that's the extent of the impact of this explosion that we saw. And that's why you hear the Ashanti Regional Minister also make that particular point about these persons who are selling these illegal explosions. And we'll get into that shortly, because the fire service yesterday, we got to know that they also had some setbacks. The fire service driver who was then driving the fire tender, from what we got to know yesterday, collapsed at the fire scene. And the only fire tender in this area also broke down at the fire scene. So what's happening to the fire service in that area? Stay with us, we'll get into it. But before we get onto the Zoom right now and speak to Alex Kinate, who's with the fire service, we got some information not too long ago this evening that as a raging fire has swept through a fuel station at Bamere in the Techiman municipality, reducing 2 buses, a fuel tanker, and 6 Matisse cars to unrecognizable wreckage. Fortunately, no fatalities have been reported so far. So that's what you're seeing on the screen right now. Firefighters were on hand to fight the fire, but this is what we got from our correspondent on the ground, and the impact of the fire also quite devastating, as we see there. A bus burnt to ashes. Let's get a bit more into this. Belinda Tete is our correspondent in the Bono East region, and she has been giving some more details on this. Take a look. And the fire service in the area have also been talking about this particular incident, the latest we got this evening from the fire service in the Bono East region. And this is another fire outbreak we got wind of just about an hour ago before we came on air. So that's what's happening right now. Take a look.
Vehicles that involved, there are 6 vehicles which was involved with the fire. So, by God's grace, we would bring the fire under control at 20:04 hours. So currently, that is what to the public, that they should allow us to do our work. We are there for them. They should allow us to do our work. That is why we will plead to the public. When we arrive, they start throwing stones, they start attacking us, of which is not good. If you wound the officer, or if you use stone on him, how will he get the energy to perform the task? So we plead to the public that in future they should not let certain of the source of that thing should happen again. So far, 6 cars, 2 buses, 1 fuel tanker, and 2 cars, 3 cars. Nobody was injured. Nobody. nobody was injured. With a consistent fire break, I would say our negligence, the society negligence is part. Because I said it earlier, if you can recall, that we have informed these filling stations. Anytime you are discharging fuel, just call us. We will come for standby duty. Are you getting my point? We will come and assist you. But here is the case, they are not doing it.
So that's the fire service there. And our correspondent on the ground in the Bono East region, Belinda Tete, gives some detail of exactly what led to this fire outbreak at the fuel station that we showed you earlier. We're going to show that to you in a bit, but Alex Kinate is with the Fire Service Public Relations Department, is connecting with us right now. Mr. Kinate, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Now, this fire outbreak in Techiman as well adds up to what happened last night. This also happened just about an hour ago in Techiman in the Bono East region. Now, your officers are still talking about the public, how the public's reaction or action impacts on their work. What briefing have you got from the Techiman people?
Information is still trickling in about the Techiman incident. The unfortunate thing with the Techiman issue is that, you see, again, I'll go back to our resourcing and our retooling. Alfred, it's very disappointing that the whole of Techiman, we have just one fire tender. So whenever there's any major fire in Techiman, we would have to rely on fire tenders to help us from Kintampo and other very far areas that take more than an hour to get to Techiman to help fight fires. The problem again, as my colleague officer had briefly mentioned, was the interference by people within these areas. All the fires that we had attended, when we are fighting the fires, for reasons best known to some of these residents, they resort to cutting these hoses for whatever reason best known to them, to be able, whether they think they are helping, it doesn't help. It's rather delays our work. So they should just leave for us to work. And then the retooling. It should be, for a big area like Techiman, we can't afford to have just one fire tender serving the whole big community. It becomes a big problematic, because we'd have to even rely on fire tenders as far as Wasa to move all the way to Techiman. Alfred, if you know geography, you know this is almost 2 hours drive, which is totally not fair. Now, fire tenders are on life support. A lot of them are on life support. After attending 1 or 2 fires, they break down. We have to work on them again before getting them back on the roads. So the interference from the people is not helping, coupled with these challenges that we face when attending.
You say a lot of the fire tenders that you fire service have is on life support, meaning what? Like it's almost down, broken.
Yes, but they are very, very old.
They are very old.
Yes.
How old? Give me an idea.
Alfred, not less than 12 years.
12 years.
Not less than 12 years. The most modern fire tender that we even have in the system will be about 12, 13 years. That's how bad the situation. I think the last time we actually got fire tenders was when the Foreign Affairs Ministry got bent.
This was some years, almost 13 years or beyond ago.
That's my point. The one even at North, the one at Konongo, for instance, that one we got it under the rule of former President Jerry John Rawlings, well over 20 years old. And so they are on life support per international standards. They're supposed to be every 5 years. We change and have new fire tenders. We know the precarious situation we face in Ghana and the need for to compromise. So the compromise 10 years is okay, but going up to this, because see, Alfred, believe it or not, I can tell you for a fact that this fire that Techiman have just attended to is not the first fire they've attended today. They might have attended 3 or 4 or 5 fires today, even before this fire happened.
I see.
And then, yes, and the same fire tender would go, the engine will not be off, the engine will have to be on, pumping consistently, wear and tear, going, with all this. And then this fire tender covers a large area. Kintampo is a very large area. So you can imagine the kind of traveling that these fire tenders would have to travel in order to get to locations to help people. So it's honestly, and so people realize that it's a ticking time bomb, we are all kidding ourselves because it's without leadership.
I see, but this is troubling. I mean, so you're saying that in the whole of Techiman, you have just one fire tender which is over 20 years old, and as we speak, that fire tender is also broken down. And so this fire, this fire that happened this evening, this fire tender, the over 20-year-old fire tender was the one that attended to this fire, and we understand that that is also getting weaker and weaker by the minute.
Yes, so the Konongo one, I can't give, I know that it's over 30 years.
We'll get to the Konongo bit. I'm talking about the Techiman, this Techiman one.
Okay, so the Techiman one, I can't tell if it's 20 years, but I can tell that it's over 13 years.
I see. Anyway, but hold on a bit for me. Let's hear from Belinda Tete, who is our correspondent in the Bono East region, giving us a bit more detail. And she, in fact, Mr. Kenate, she corroborates what you mentioned earlier. Logistical constraints, even though the fire started earlier, because of this logistical constraints, your men, the fire service, couldn't attend to the fire early enough. Take a look.
The fire, I'm told, started at exactly 7 p.m. at the fueling station. It's the LG fueling station at Bamuri in the Techiman municipality, and the fire service was informed. But due to logistic constraints, they couldn't respond on time. The only fire tender in the municipality, I am told, is faulty. So they couldn't even respond on time. They had to rely on the neighboring communities. They had one from Nkranza. The first tender that came to attend to the fire was from Nkranza. So that is how come the fire got out of hand. And so far, we've not recorded any fatalities. Neither have we recorded any injuries. But some 6 cars that were parked, including the fuel tanker, which was discharging fuel as at the time the fire started, it has been destroyed. And 2 buses which were parked at the fueling station has also been destroyed to ashes, as well as 3 saloon cars, 3 matters, I am told, has also been destroyed. So eyewitnesses who were at the scene when the fire started tells me that the fire started when the fuel tanker was discharging fuel, and the fire started from the hose, which got into the car and exploded, affecting the other cars that were parked there, and some parts of the fueling station has also been burnt. We are unable to speak to the owner of the fueling station because he's still in a state of shock, and so he couldn't speak to us. But the fire service persons tells us that when they got here, because they weren't able to get here on time, the people or the community members got agitated and they tried attacking them in the process of them fighting the fire. Their reason was that the fire service couldn't respond on time, and so they tried attacking them. So they had to inform the police, and for the police to help them before they were able to even attend to the fire. So as and when I came, the police was here offering security to the fire service to be able to do their job. Eyewitnesses tells me that they were cooking attire as at the time the fuel tanker was discharging the fuel. And so that could have been the reason why the fire erupted and it got out of hand, destroying the other things. Let's listen to the fire service personnel on how they attended to the fire and how the
quite troubling in fact, this detail, that's Belinda Tete, our correspondent in the Bono East region, and Mr. Kenate. So that's the situation. In fact, she confirms a number of things that you had told us earlier. But this fire outbreak this evening then leads us to the fire outbreak last night, which we broke on Ghana Tonight, the Konongo Dumasi one. And we got updates today that some of your fire service officers who attended to that fire have sustained injuries as a result of that Konongo Dumasi fire outbreak last night. Confirm to us how many of them and where are they as we speak?
Okay, so Alfred, let me quickly just go back to the Techiman fire.
Quick one.
So you see, I was not even aware that the Techiman fire is out of commission, meaning that it's broken down.
Yes.
So looking at the distance from Nkranza, and I don't know why people still perpetrate barbaric acts like this by attacking. Looking at the situation, this guy is coming from Nkranza, meaning that Nkranza is naked to fires. If there's any fire at Nkranza right now, we don't know the cover that would have to be there because the fire tender at Nkranza is at Techiman. So what is the point of attacking them? What do they gain by attacking our officers? And the ignorance, people cooking. And you see, linking the issue of the Techiman fire to the Konongo fire, it is lack of people doing the right thing or ensuring that what is done is supposed to be done. You are selling explosive materials. Even with the transporting of explosive materials, there has to be provision made for both police and fire. But you realize that people are more scared of people stealing their explosives, so they use only the police in transporting these explosives. Then what happens? And when these explosives are passing through our commanders in the various districts or in the various regions are supposed to be notified that there's some of a sort. But let's get into the Konongo Dumasi fire now. I was asking about your fire officers who were affected. Confirm to us how many of them were affected by this outbreak last night, the explosion, and where they are at the moment. So 5 of them were affected, including the driver. How many? 5? Yes. Okay. So the 4 have been treated and discharged. The one left is the driver who collapsed and whose condition was a bit worrisome, but he's also responding to treatment, but still on admission at the hospital. I see. And he collapsed as a result of what exactly? As a result of the explosion. How close were they to the fire? That is, if you have that information. So they were quite close because as I mentioned yesterday, the fire tender is out of commission due to 2 factors. The explosion caused some damage to the fire tender, and then the attacks of the pelting of stones by the inhabitants of the community also destroyed the fire tender. So the effect of the explosion, when there's an explosion, stuff runs, all through the air, things fly from all angles. So these things, they were quite close because obviously they were trying to get close to be able to fight the fire, but at reasonable distance. That's even the reason why they didn't, suffer so much disaster. But the driver is the pump operator, so he had got down to operate the pump to help get the water out, flowing through the hoses. So that's why he was affected by the explosion and he collapsed. And we understand in most cases you go to fight these fires without any protective gear, and you are not insured as well. Is that true? We are not insured at all. It becomes worrisome that firefighters, I can tell you for a fact that a lot of these firefighters who incur injuries will have to take care of their medical expenses on their own and later come for reimbursement. Wow. There are times that government comes in to make payment and takes care of medical care. But a lot of the times you find people rather pre-financing their medical expenses before applying for reimbursement. And, it takes a while. So we are hoping that moving forward, a dedicated fund or a dedicated insurance package will be made available to firefighters so that when in the line of duty, they know that even if they incur any injury, there's light at the end of the tunnel so that they don't have to again think about the financial burden that it will be presenting to them. Alex, appreciate you for this, and thank you very much for this update, and then also the situation you face with the fire service. ADO1 Alex Kinate is with the Public Relations Department of the Ghana National Fire Service. This is Ghana Tonight. We've been talking about 2 separate fires, one last night and most parts of earlier today. That's the Konongo Dumasi fire outbreak, and which we understand 5 fire officers were affected, sustained injuries. 4 of them have been treated and discharged. 1 is still on admission. That's the driver of the fire tender that is broken down. And then the latest from the Techiman as well, and the Bonois region as well, where we understand that a fuel station has been affected by this fire outbreak. We keep an eye on this one as well. But coming up next, here on Ghana Tonight, President John Dramani Mahama has visited parts of the Volta region where tidal waves have destroyed houses and displaced many. He has been making some pronouncements as well. We're heavy on that tonight, and right after the
6th March celebrations at the Jubilee House, the president headed straight to the Volta region. He has directed the Minister for Finance to make budgetary allocations for the commencement of the Blekusu Phase 2 project. That's the sea defense project that will tackle the perennial flooding along the coast, Ketu South and Keta constituencies. Visiting the affected communities in Agaveji and surrounding areas, the president also announced that it will immediately allocate a safe site to resettle affected persons. Take a look.
Came and they have made the assessment and they're giving us a comprehensive report of what is happening here. 51 households have been affected and 300 people have been displaced, and 80 meters of the coastline has been washed away. Now, when Chief was speaking, he touched on what the issue is. We started a sea defense project called Blekusu Phase 1. The feasibility study was also done for Blekusu Phase 2, and the understanding was that when the contractor finishes Phase 1, he will continue with Phase 2. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. So the project ended at Phase 1. Government did not provide funding to continue Phase 2. Phase 2 would have covered Agaveji, Salakope, Adina, and Amotino. And so that basically is the problem. The feasibility study is ready, the design is ready. We just have to allocate the funding so that the project will start. Happily, the finance minister next week is going to present the budget. So I'm going to ask the finance minister to include funding to start Phase 2 of the Blekusu Sea Defense project. Before we came here, we went to the resettlement project that I believe or I've heard is being financed by Ghana Gas. I don't think the project was well thought through. The work is shoddy, and even the area where the resettlement is being built is a flood area. And so if it floods, it will affect those buildings too. And so those buildings are not fit for purpose. There are two things we need to do. Start the building of the Phase 2 of the defense wall, but at the same time, resettle those whose houses have been affected. In the meantime, to alleviate the plight of those who have been affected, we've brought some items to be distributed to those who have been displaced. The items are from 3 sources. One, our brother, Governor Sakoja, who is our Minister of Roads and Transport, has donated 250 bags of rice. For those of you who know, our mother comes from Denu, and so we're also part of you. And so my younger brother, who is the MD for Engineers and Planners, has also given 100,000 CDs.
So that's the president there. Let's go on to Zoom right now, and the Volta Regional NADMO Director, that's Pascal Agbagba, is joining us on Zoom right now. Ms. Agbagba, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, what's the situation with the affected persons, this tidal waves a few days ago?
The current situation is that the tides are no longer high. The sea is not as rough as it used to be in a few days back. And life is getting to normalcy because people have started going about their businesses. Even the safe havens that we have gotten to the people, I can assure you that when you go there this evening, you will not see anybody there because they have decided to go back to their various homes. And a few people whose houses have collapsed, they have either decided to go out of town to their relatives in neighboring communities, or some getting back to their relatives and friends within the same community. I was wondering why they didn't want to stay at the safe havens. So when you talk to some of them, they tell you that, oh, they have spent a few days at the safe havens. Now they think that things have gone back to normalcy, so they must get back to their various houses. So today, the president was in town. A few other ministers were in town. And we had a deba, and I think that they are all happy because some more relief items were brought by NADMO, then by one of our MPs, the Minister for Roads and Highways, Honorable Abuja, the MP for Adaklu. And the president's brother, Ibrahim Mahama, was in town together with the brother, and he has also supported immensely.
Right.
So,
but you talk about these relief items by the president, Governor Kwame Abuja, Ibrahim Mahama. How do you intend to share these relief items?
we have a list of affected people. But last week, we have distributed relief items. But I begin to get calls from radio stations and TVs that the people said the food items were not enough for them. As a joke, I was joking with the host of the program that there's no human being who will have anything that will be enough for them. So whatever I give to them, they will always ask for more. So now that they have brought more relief items, I've been asked to stay in the community and make sure that together with the team that we have formed, we have a committee that we put in place. We distribute the rest of the items. But we are going to do that with care because we don't want to pamper the people with relief items. So those that are deserving, we will distribute. As we speak, we have kept all the items at the police station in the community. So tomorrow the committee is going to meet and take a decision as to who gets what and how best we go about it. We are forming a committee of the assembly members of the two elections that are affected. NADMO will be represented. The chiefs will be represented. One woman will be represented. Will be representing women, and one man will be representing men. That's the formula we want to use. So we agreed to meet tomorrow morning by 9 and look at the modalities. We have a list already of those who are affected or those who are the victims.
I see. Tomorrow 9 a.m. Mr. Agba, if you could sit up a bit for me, okay? And how many persons have been displaced?
By NADMO, our assessment puts the figure at 871.
671. Now, if you could, do you have a breakdown of it? There's this number you gave me, the children, women, men. Do you have it?
I will not be able to give the breakdown now, but I can give the community figures. But for the number of children and that, I don't have the data with me here. I have done it, but it's not with me currently. But in the communities, if we go to Ambutinu, there are about 318 people affected. Then if you come to Salakope, there are about 172 people affected. Then Agabeji, there are 191 people affected. But strangely enough, sometimes if other people are talking, maybe assembly member and a few other guys, I am hearing 300 people being affected in Agaveji. But our data is not reflecting 300 people. We have 191.
Right.
So that's it. So if you put the three together, you have 681. Yeah, I'm sure 681. Yeah.
Right, 681. And this is one that we'll keep an eye on. Thank you so much. Pascal Agbagba is the Volta Regional Director of the National Disaster Management Organization, NADMO, giving us that detail. Appreciate you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. And we'll see how the coming days will look like on this. And then the details you've given to us as well on how you're going to distribute the relief items, we'll keep an eye on that as well. But coming up next here on Ghana Tonight, the Ghana Education Service has directed teachers affected by the recent directive from the presidency for the revocation of the appointments post-December 7 to have their appointments validated. We're going to be getting more on this particular one from the Ghana Education Service, specifically that directive that they gave. So this is a statement that we got from the GES and that's gotten some reactions as well. But they make reference to an earlier letter dated some 17th of February 2025 on the above theme of the regional directors of education, revocation of appointments of these and recruitments as well. They are requesting all the affected staff to have their recruitment validated and reinstated in order to clean up the database of all recruited staff on the GES payroll. So the purpose for this is for the cleanup of the database of all recruited staff of the GES. And then those who are affected should go through the process of validation and then to be reinstated. In view of the above, there's a 3-member committee made up of the regional human resource officer, internal auditor, accountant. They're going to lead the validation process at the various regions, and all staff in the category I'm going to show you should make themselves available the following documents to support the validation process. So we're talking about the appointment letter, academic certificate, licensure certificate, national service certificate. These are the 4 documents that, per this statement from the GES, they are requiring of the affected teachers and directors of education who have been affected by this particular release or this directive. And then they go on to say that the affected staff are expected to go through the validation process by 14th of March 2025, which is just some 7 days away from today. And then also the management of GES, counting on the cooperation of these persons too. But essentially this is what they are asking of the persons affected. So if you know that you've received any notice because of the earlier directive giving, these are the documents you're expected to put out there. Well, the unions, the teacher unions have been reacting to this. Adukwe Aikwe Awule is the vice president of the Coalition of Concerned Teachers. I spoke to him earlier on Hot Edition on 3FM 92.7 at 5 p.m. Monday to Friday. This is what he had to say. Take a look.
Yes, we've notified those who have been affected, but let me lay this background. The directive given by the new Director General of GES was that those who were recruited way back October 2024 and have not been put on skill, that is, they've not started receiving salaries, their services were withdrawn. So ours wasn't from 7th December 2024, but it was rather from October 2024. So that was what we fought, and now there's a new directive that those people who are employed and have not been put on skill to go through validation, so that at the end of the day, if they are validated and their names are in the Ghana Education Service System, then their salaries will be paid and then they will be asked to continue their work.
I see. So this goes beyond that deadline of the December 7th, that which came from the Chief of Staff earlier.
Yes, the Chief of Staff gave a directive from December 7th, but we don't know why for Ghana Education Service, that the directive went as far back as October 2024.
And is this a question that you intend to seek some answers to?
We have already sought answers to that, and that is why yesterday we had a meeting, our leadership had a meeting with the Director General as well as the Minister for Education, and that is why this reversal, or let me say this statement is now out for the validation to take place.
Okay, so what's to mean is that the clarification that you got from the GS Director General, it satisfies you. You're okay with it? That
we are okay with it. That because at the end of the day, there were even those who were recruited from colleges of education, and we know colleges of education, their recruitment is automatic. But we have majority of them who have not yet received their salaries. So if you say from October, if you have not been put on skill, your appointment is revoked. At the end of the day, even those from colleges of education, about half of them, that is about 8,000 of them, their appointments have been revoked, and it is not good. It is not clear. So at the end of the day, we have to hold discussions with the Ministry and Ghana Education Service And then we have come up with this statement. At the end of the day, they are supposed to visit their various regional HR departments. So their letters will be validated, and then that will be it.
Adokwe Ayikwe Awole is the Vice President of the Coalition of Concerned Teachers. I spoke to him earlier on this directive on 3FM 92.7 Hot Edition. Make a date with me Monday to Friday, 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. But after this quick break, Dr. Peter Patianti is going to be joining us on this same matter because the unions have raised some concerns. We'll be back shortly after this quick break. Stay with us.
Hello, my friends. My name is Calcate Toothpaste. Wow. I was made to be gentle on your gum, but protected. I will protect your teeth from cavity, make your teeth whiter, stronger, keep your mouth
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. As always, Ghana Tonight is brought to you by Flamingo Paint, Simply Superior, and Kel Charcoal Toothpaste, Fresh Breath, Happy Smile. Let's go back to our earlier story on that directive by the GES to some category of teachers who were recruited between October. Now we're hearing from the Coalition of Concerned Teachers that this directive goes back to October to date. Dr. Peter Patianti, Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies, is joining us. Now, how crucial is this validation process that the GES talks about to sanitize the database that they have?
Very much, and good evening to your viewers. Yes, I personally think that this should have been the way to go when it came to the GES attempt to ask some of the teachers that were recruited late last year to go home. I felt that this should have been the way to go. They should have asked them to submit their documents for validation, and then that would have enabled them know the caliber of people that have been recruited, their qualification, whether they are fit for the various classes or the various schools that they have been posted to. And doing that or going through that process would have enabled them weed out those that were not qualified or have been posted to schools that technically they do not possess the required qualification. So this should have been the initial position of the Ghana Education Service, and it's important that they have now come to terms with that fact, and they are asking for validation to be carried out.
You hear that the unions also say that they would probably push for some more time because this 1 week period giving to their members to gather these 4 documents to validate their reinstatement or otherwise is too short. Is it one that you agree with?
Well, I don't see the difficulty in this, unless of course people have moved from their stations and have traveled to other places that will make it difficult for them to move back to the various regions for the validation to take place. Other than that, your certificate, your license certificate, and all those things that are being asked for, I don't think they are documents that are kept so far away from individuals when it comes to some of these things. So I think that it's a matter of the affected individuals putting these documents together and then getting to the place that they are supposed to do the validation for them to be clear. That I think it is in their own interest that this exercise is carried out so that the appointment itself will not be questionable. You know, the stigma that will go with you having to vacate your position and then you have to come back. So it is just a way of also validating yourself that you are truly qualified for the position that you are going to occupy. And I think it is in the interest of those individuals to quickly go through the process and then get back to their station and continue the work that they were doing. If you are an individual who also do not have the requisite qualification, then I don't think you have to worry yourself even trying to gather any documents to go to that place. So I don't think the 1 week is too it's not enough for the teachers to put these things together. Of course, if you have a peculiar situation, I think that when you communicate to the authorities, they would appreciate your situation and might grant you some kind of grace period. But to make a blanket statement that the 1 week is not adequate for all of them, I don't think it's
well, they say that some of their members may have been sent to hard to reach communities, and they may not even have knowledge of this directive because some of them are in areas where there's no television, no internet, they don't have access to social media and so on.
It's a bit troubling because these people have been asked to vacate position for almost a month now. So if they are still teaching, then that is serious because they have been asked to vacate position. So wherever you are supposed to go back to where you come from. I have had experiences with some of the teachers who had to move to communities, had to rent accommodation. That's why some of us, we felt a little bit uncomfortable with that directive, because they had just rented accommodation for 2 years, and then they have been asked to now leave and go back to wherever they came from. So I know that from personal experience, I know that most of them have left to their hometowns or wherever they were before they moved to the stations. So if this is an excuse, I think the unions should use their links, their communication channels to inform their members. That is why they are the executives. So this is an avenue where they can use to they will be beneficial to the members. They shouldn't be creating excuses for them. You have platforms where your members are on. Push this and let them get the information, and then encourage them to go and do the validation, and then go back to their schools to go and teach. I think this is something that is very simple, and we shouldn't complicate it.
Dr. Anti, appreciate your time as always. Thank you so much for talking to us. Dr. Peter Patti Anti is Executive Director of the Institute for Education Studies, IFS, a CSO in the education space in this country. But before we go up next, Ghana celebrated our 68th Independence Day to date in a historic fashion with a scaled-down national event at the Jubilee House. We've got some sounds and sights from the event for you. And, well, the President, John Dramani Mahama, has received tremendous commendation for this particular decision and is urging Ghanaians to join forces with the government to undertake its programs aimed at transforming the economy. Take a look.
This administration is working to implement the 24-hour economy program to ensure that our economy never goes to sleep. This will allow us to create the necessary job expansion, boost productivity, increase our exports capacity and trade footprint, and also reduce our dependence on foreign aid. The US $10 billion Big Push initiative will also modernize our infrastructure. It will create jobs, it will stimulate local industry, ensuring that our development is driven from within rather than funded from outside. Considering evolving national and global dynamics, I have constituted a new review committee to undertake a comprehensive and inclusive reassessment of our Constitution. This endeavor is essential as the strength of our democracy, the integrity of our constitutional order, and the rule of law requires continuous renewal. We must not allow weaknesses in our governance framework to fester until they threaten national stability.
Well, that's the president there, and some other parts of the country. We had the Ashanti region, the minister, the Ashanti region leading a massive cleanup exercise, and others that happened to commemorate this day, the Independence Day. But earlier this evening, some fireworks at the Jubilee House, also to climax the Independence Day celebrations. Take a look.
Happy 6th March.
Well, we're close to the action, very close to the Jubilee House, so saw it firsthand. But there you have it, and it was all merry for the people there, and happy Independence Day to all of us. According to the president, it wasn't worth spending 20 million cedis on this, and so there's scaled down celebrations to send a signal of austerity. But as well, that conversation continues on 3news.com, TV3 Ghana on Facebook. Join the New Day team tomorrow morning, and also the 3FM Sunrise team tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. as well. And Ghana Tonight, as always, was brought to you by Kel Charcoal Toothpaste, Fresh Breath, Happy Smile, and Flamingo Paint, simply superior. My name is Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint, superior durability.